We've all been there, right? A major setback hits. Maybe it's a job loss, a breakup, or a project you poured your heart into just fails. These moments don't just sting, they can shake the very foundation of who we think we are. So today, we're going to dive into how you can rebuild your identity. Not just getting back to who you were, but actually building something even stronger.
And this question, this one right here, is usually at the heart of it all. When a huge part of your life suddenly vanishes, you're left looking in the mirror asking, who am I now? It's a disorienting and, let's be honest, a pretty terrifying feeling. But what if that question isn't the end of your story? What if it's actually the starting line?
So to figure out how to rebuild, we first need to get what's actually happening inside our own heads when our identity takes a massive hit. What's going on psychologically when it feels like the ground has just disappeared from under our feet?
Okay, so it all starts with this thing called our self-concept. Just think of it as your own internal blueprint for you. It's the story you're constantly telling yourself about what you're good at, what you stand for, and where you fit in the world. A major setback doesn't just challenge the situation. It feels like a direct assault on this fundamental blueprint. And that assault creates this incredibly uncomfortable mental friction called cognitive dissonance. You know that feeling? Your self-concept is saying, hey, I'm a competent, capable person. But the reality of the setback is screaming, you failed. That internal battle, that nagging question of, if I'm so smart and capable, how did this happen? That is the very engine of all the pain and distress. And naturally, this leads to some really tough emotions, right? Anxiety, shame, that spiral of depressive thinking. It's a brutal place to be. But, and this is so important, psychologically, this very moment of instability is also a massive opportunity. The cracks in the foundation, that's exactly where you get the chance to restructure and build something entirely new. Which brings us to a crucial fork in the road. Do you just try to get back to the person you were before all this happened? Or do you use this as a chance to build a fundamentally stronger version of yourself? This right here is the difference between simple recovery and what psychologists call post-crisis growth. So let's just lay it out. Recovery is all about getting back to normal, right? Just returning to your old baseline. But post-crisis growth, that's about aiming higher. The goal isn't just to patch up the walls, it's to use the rubble from the old foundation to build a brand new one that's way stronger than before. A new baseline. So, what does this new, stronger baseline even look like in the real world? Well, for starters, it means you develop way more resilience for whatever life throws at you next. It means you gain this much deeper self-awareness. You really get who you are. And often, it helps you finally clarify your priorities and focus on what's genuinely meaningful to you. So the big question is, how in the world do we actually do this? How do we get from that point of crisis to a point of real growth? Well, it's not about just hoping it happens. There's actually a process, a blueprint we can follow. So let's walk through the 5 essential stages for rebuilding your identity. Here's the roadmap. It's 5 stages. 1. Stabilize before you analyze. 2. Separate the event from your identity. 3. Extract meaning. 4. Reconstruct a flexible identity. And number 5, take small, consistent actions. We're going to break down each one, but I want you to notice the flow here. The sequence is everything. You really can't skip ahead. Okay, first things first, you have to stabilize. Right after a setback, your mind, your body, everything is in a state of high alert. You cannot do deep psychological work from a place of total chaos. So the absolute first focus has to be on the basics. Sleep, a simple routine, just getting grounded. Seriously, this step is non-negotiable. Now, let's talk about one of the biggest mental traps we all fall into. Our brains have this terrible habit of making this catastrophic leap. A single event, I failed, gets tangled up with our core being until it becomes our identity. I am a failure. This is a cognitive distortion, and it's incredibly destructive. And that is precisely why step 2 is so critical. You have to consciously, deliberately separate the event from your identity. You have to draw a big, thick line in the sand. The event was something that happened. It's external. It is not the definition of who you are. This act of cognitive separation is your number 1 defense against that feeling of shame. All right, once you've got a little bit of space, you can move to step 3. And I want you to pay close attention to the wording here. Extract meaning, not just lessons. A lesson is kind of superficial, like don't do that again. Meaning is way deeper. It's asking, what did this whole experience reveal about what I truly value? Or what false assumption was I living by? This process is how you transform raw pain into something useful, into psychological structure. Now we're ready to actually rebuild. And the key here is to build a more flexible identity. A rigid, brittle identity is based on outcomes. I am a person who must always succeed. The problem? One failure and the whole thing shatters. A flexible identity is based on process. I am someone who learns, or I am someone who adapts and persists. This kind of identity can actually absorb a failure without collapsing. It becomes anti-fragile. And finally, we get to step 5. Listen, you can't just think your way back to having confidence. It doesn't work that way. Confidence is rebuilt through evidence. You have to literally prove to your own brain that you're still capable. And the way you do that is by taking small, consistent, low-risk actions. It's not about one huge, heroic leap. It's about a series of small wins that build proof. So we've got the blueprint. Now let's get you equipped with a few practical, tangible tools you can start using, like today, to actually put that blueprint into action. First up is a tool called the evidence list. After a setback, our brains get hit with this negativity bias, where we only focus on that one bad data point, the failure. This tool is a direct counterattack. You physically sit down and write out the other facts. Your past successes, the skills you absolutely still have, and all the other tough challenges you've already made it through. It's a factual argument against your emotional distress. This next tool is, well, it's incredibly powerful. Instead of getting stuck ruminating on what you lost in the past, this one question shifts your entire focus to the future. It reframes the setback not as a point of damage, but as a point of origin. It's about consciously deciding to turn a painful experience into a catalyst for who you want to become. Now, a quick word of warning here, because there are a couple of common pitfalls. The first one is trying to rush the process. I get it, our culture loves a fast comeback story, but real, meaningful growth takes time. If you try to force it, you don't actually process the experience. You just end up suppressing it, and trust me, it will pop up again later. And the second major pitfall is making the setback your entire story. It is so easy to let this one painful chapter define your whole life. But you have to remember, it is one event in a much, much larger narrative. It does not get to be the title of the book of your life. So when you navigate this whole process the right way, when you avoid those pitfalls and you actually use these tools, what's the end result? It's not just about getting back on your feet, it's about forging a fundamentally stronger version of yourself. The ultimate transformation here is this profound shift in where your confidence comes from. You move away from a fragile confidence, one that depends entirely on external success and what other people think, to a stable confidence. This new kind of confidence isn't rooted in what happens to you. It's rooted in something much deeper and internal. Your own knowledge that you can adapt, that you can learn, and that you can endure. It's pretty much unshakable. So if there's one thing to take away, it's this. A major setback feels like a test of who you already are, but it's really a revelation of who you have the potential to become. It's in these moments of crisis, when it feels like everything is falling apart, that we are given this rare and powerful opportunity to build our strongest, most resilient, and most authentic sense of self.